Alright, take 8, everything's here, the chair isn't creaking, this recording is gonna be the end of me anyways. Hey guys, my name is Hab and this is the M4A1 Revalorisé, a tier 8 French medium tank, and some of you may have seen it on my channel before. That is because I made a review on it already last February actually. However, I thought it was a bad review. I wasn't feeling well and had a lot of issues to deal with, and that got into the video as well, so I hope this Redux review will do the job the last one failed to do. The Rev is a great tank. Sometimes I feel it ain't that great, but I have almost 600 battles in it for a reason. The main point of the tank is its gun, so let's talk about that real quick. The gun is pretty special for tier 8 standards. Not a lot of mediums, if any, have 350 alpha at this tier. Your pen is okay at 200, heat's at 250, and the high explosive is at 53, so that's not exactly high pen. Despite the fact you shoot APCR, however, your shell velocity ain't that great. 970 meters per second isn't high, and it's due to that I actually run supercharge on this tank. It isn't necessary, but it gives me a peace of mind as I'm not good at pre-aiming. Not to mention your penetration loss over distance is pretty bad at 12.5%. The gun is legitimately great though. Granted, the reload is fairly long at 8.5 seconds, but the 350 alpha lends the tank almost 2500 DPM. For tier 8 standards, that is very high. The 10 degrees of gun depression also help quite a lot with positioning, which you'll really need to do with this tank because the armor is hot garbage. It's a Sherman but 3 tiers higher basically. The front can be penned with some high explosive, and the sides and rear, don't even get me started on those. The turret mantlet can bounce some shots, but don't depend on it. Assume that every shot is going to pen you. Plan around your health, consider encounters with enemy tanks based on that. Hit points are important in this thing, because if you're low, it's gonna be very difficult to keep holding on as you have absolutely no armor to rely on. From personal experience, I at least don't get hit into important modules too often in this thing, so that's a plus. The mobility, as always, is a boring topic, but thankfully the Rev doesn't have any massive issues with moving around. 48 forwards, 18 backwards, which is actually really appreciated, seeing as you're gonna be popping in and out of cover. Terrain resistance at 1, 1.1 and 1.5 isn't anything, well, outstanding, but it is pretty good. Well, how do I run the tank? Other than a relatively healthy dose of heat for some heavy tanks, my consumables, provisions and ammo are the typical loadout, but my equipment may raise a few eyebrows. Gunner armor, defense system and optics are first, then the aforementioned supercharge, improved assembly and engine accelerator. I recommend that you try the gun length drive before the supercharge. After that, the refined gun, because I tend to use this thing at longer ranges, and then the toolbox and consumable delivery system, though you can just swap for high-end consumables as well. I also recommend trying out the stabilizer instead of the refined gun. Well, pros and cons, I suppose. The pros are kind of obvious. High alpha, good mobility, and great gun depression. The cons, poor armor, and large profile. Would I recommend the Rev? Well, yes I would. The tank has been sold multiple times already, and I got mine for about 7,500 gold. I have seen offers for the Rev ranging around the 5k mark now, and to be honest, if you can work around the fact that you have no armor, this thing's great and definitely worth the gold. It is much more forgiving than, say, the Lorraine 40T. With that out of the way, now's the time for some replays. Refined and distilled replays. Alright, so the first battle is on Faust, and this is a very old replay, by the way. I think this is an October replay, actually. Oh no, it's 11th November. But regardless, we are on Faust, we are fighting a bunch of tier 8 tanks, and while this is not a representative way of how to play the Revalorisé, I do believe that this is a viable method on how to play it, at least. The first thing you want, of course, in a medium tank like this, is to get a powerful position right from the get-go. A light tank would normally just spot here and drive away, but, I mean, I'm going in. That was a beautiful penetration. That does not happen very often against an 047, if I see that correctly. Sorry, my preview is scaled down. But regardless, we are now looking around each other. We are now looking around ourselves. We do need to get rid of other tanks that are around us. You do not just focus on a single tank in this thing. You aren't a Russian medium. You have to conserve your hit points. You must not expose yourself too much. You gotta be very careful, very considerate. That's our first kill, by the way. This tank does not accept a lot of mistakes. It is definitely easier than the Lorraine 40T, but it still isn't a particularly easy tank to play per se. However, the Alpha does actually help you quite a lot. 350 is very useful by all standards, so I'm glad the tank has it. It didn't really need it. I worked with it just fine on 310 Alpha, but whatever. No use crying over that. It's a good thing anyway. You may have noticed that I'm rambling a bit too much. I have not slept too well, and I'm just now covering the entire Revalorisé video, so I hope you're at least picking up something out of my rambling. What you want to do in a Revalorisé is the first thing you do is you grab a powerful position and then you wreak havoc, and when there are some tanks that are closer to you and have less health, pick those out. Just don't focus on your damage. You gotta knock tanks out of the game before they knock out your own tanks. You can see this Annihilator, this is gonna hurt. Ooh. A very nasty tank, and now the last tank that's left is the T-34, and I did not bother repairing my driver because I did not feel that it was necessary, especially in the last few moments, but I did pop up the adrenaline to at least get some more damage. I would say this is a pretty decent damage result and a pretty decent game for the tank overall. If I recall correctly, that's a 6-kill game. And anyways, that is it for the first replay. It isn't a lot, but it is also a kind of a decent replay to show just how you can play the tank. Anyways, I'll see you near the second replay. Alright, and the second replay is on Winter Malinovka. Funnily enough, this was a birthday battle that I have done about a few days back, maybe a week by this point. Anyways, I do believe this is a more representative battle of how you should play the Revalorisé. What you should do is be a second line support tank. This thing cannot be at third line. It can be, just won't do the job particularly well, like other tanks that should be back in the corner. And it cannot be in the first line because it doesn't have any armor that it can rely upon. Granted, your HP pool is not that small, it is actually relatively considerable. But, as always, this is a pretty weakly armored medium. You should not do that. Anyways, you can see that we are trying to get a gun depression powerful position here first without going into that typical bush. This is what I usually do because I do get pre-fired on quite often. And there we go, that's a nasty shot into a T-44. You may have noticed that I am playing this is a replay on mobile. You can notice by the automatic zoom, but I digress. I tried firing one more shot into the T-44. I think that one missed, which is a shame, but hey, what can we do? Next up is that Pantera, and you can see some of these cheeky shots that we are taking back from afar. That is actually quite a lot of damage, and so, following up that, bam, a fire. I really do like the tank when it works. The accuracy can sometimes screw you over, but it does the job just fine, as you can see. Anyways, we got caught out in the open by that CDC, and as such we are immediately moving to some hard cover on our left. I'm getting a bit too greedy for damage at this point, since I realized that in order to get any decent amount of credits from a birthday battle, you need to do at least 2k in a tier 8 tank. I could have fired HE there, but I was on mobile and hard to pick ammo out on a phone. Anyways, we are saving our allied tank by killing that CDC, and here is an enemy T-34. Oh boy, that's quite a juicy target, if I may add, because honestly, the damage output of a Revalorisé against a T-34 is terrifyingly different. We are gonna see if we can let the VK-100 soak up some shots. Right now we're moving up forward, and we got the T-34, and now I am looking at the SC-101. Ooh, not a fun tank to be fighting against, but we can exploit his very poor gun depression by just hiding ourselves behind this ridge, only showing the turret and the relatively large gun mantlet, which is what you should try to do most of the time. That was just a bad shot. But anyways, brown alert is a Bolsig. So let's just plop in some HE, and I am immediately prioritizing the Bolsig instead of the SC-101, because the Bolsig 1 has more health, though that can be considered farming, and 2, the SC-101 isn't exactly a threat right now. Now he was, so now he's down. You can see my rambling doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I am trying to make it sensible. Anyways, this is the M4A1 Revalorisé, a genuinely good gun depression medium tank with a lot of punch behind it, and that's how you should play it as well. Second line, just going hull down, using that gun depression, letting it work. Anyways, sorry for the rather bare bones editing. I'm in Vegas 18 again. It's actually feeling pretty cozy now. And that is gonna be it from me. My name is Ab. If you somehow like this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. The next video should be that mini-series that I have talked about in the past. Anyways, guys, I'll see you all later, and bye-bye.